Welcome in, everyone, to another episode of Respect Coin. I, of course, am your host, Michael Bolling, and as always, we are presented by 𝗻creek Casino, Chicago, Southland. Welcome in. We have so much to get to, but before I get all the way into it, are you ready for your winning moment? I hope the Bulls are. Find it at 𝗻creek, Chicago, Southland, where the action never stops. Play the hottest table games, enjoy the newest slots, and celebrate big jackpots at 𝗻creek Casino. There's a win waiting for you around every corner. It's postseason time. We've made it through an entire Bulls season, ups and downs. They finished with the same record that they had a season ago, I think 39-43. Pretty unbelievable, back in the 9 spot, but hosting the play-in tournament game against none other than the Miami Heat, team that they played and beat a little bit less than a week ago. So a lot to unpack. I think this has been a surprising season. I'm personally on the hook for thinking that they wouldn't have won this many games, especially with the idea that they were going to trade guys. They did trade Zach LaVine. They didn't trade Vooch, but saw a big shift at the trade deadline, and they really seem like a different team. So kudos to Billy Donovan, Hall of Fame. Just got inducted into the Hall of Fame, obviously knows what he's doing, but did a great job with this roster, did a great job with kind of shifting the narrative around this team, a team that played pretty slow a few years ago. Now I think is the team that leads the league in pace. Billy had a quote early before the season saying, if we run, we're going to have fun. And by all accounts, they've had a lot of fun this season, but locked into the 9 spot. Hosting the game on Wednesday night at the United Center, 6:30 p.m. on ESPN. Really excited to unpack this. So let's get into it. The Heat and the Bulls have played 3 times this season. The Bulls have won every matchup. So if you believe in, it's hard to beat a team 3 times, it might be even harder to beat a team 4 times, but that's what the Bulls are facing. Very different styles. Erik Spoelstra, very, very good coach, obviously NBA champion coach, coaches for Team USA, has been in NBA finals, won them, has played in the play-in, has familiarity. But the one thing that is different about this Miami Heat team than the last few seasons is Jimmy Butler is now in Golden State. I think that makes a huge difference. It's something that I will talk about a little later. But let's unpack this. I watched the 3 games over, just to kind of get a sense of any trends, any things to look out for. So the first matchup was back in February 4th. The Bulls won 133-124 at home against the Heat. On that day, Josh Giddey had 24 points, and we had 𝗵адц Buzelis post his career high of 24 points. That was then a career high. And this was the first game that they played after trading Zach LaVine. So we hadn't gotten to the deadline yet, but during the deadline hours, days leading up to it, they were able to move Zach LaVine to Sacramento, and they got back Tre Jones, Kevin Huerter, Zach Collins, and their pick. So that first game after the Zach LaVine trade, obviously emotions high. Coby White was on record talking, about how sad he was in the beginning, but understanding that this is a business. And I think Coby White has benefited probably the most after Zach LaVine was traded, because he became more of the focal point on offense and went on an insane run of 20, 25-plus point games en route to winning Player of the Month in March. So really nothing earth-shattering to report on that game. I think, that matchup was interesting solely for the fact that people were trying to figure out what this team would look like after trading Zach, and clearly we know that they had some success coming out of that. The next matchup was March 8th. March 8th, the Bulls traveled to play the Heat in Miami. Bulls win 114-109. This game, a little more interesting. The Bulls trailed quite a bit, 17-point deficit in the first half. Giddey had 26, Coby had 21, and Zach Collins, with Nikola Vucevic out, posted an 18-15 game. Things to unpack here. Zach Collins has now obviously moved back into more of a bench role with 𝗬𝗏 getting healthy, and 𝗬𝗏 has played extremely well. But one of the things you like to see about this, right, is if 𝗬𝗏 gets in foul trouble, Zach Collins has familiarity with the team and success against them. So if you're a Bulls fan and you're rooting for the Bulls and you're looking for reasons why things could go wrong, foul trouble may not be the worst thing in the world, especially as it pertains to someone like 𝗬𝗏, big man, guy who's going to get boards. He is going to stretch the floor a little bit as well. So very confident that the Bulls have, the beef up front to contest with 𝗵 𝗏𝗶𝗹 and 𝗂𝗏 𝗿 and those guys from Miami. Finally, last week, April 9th, the Bulls did win the pseudo play-in playoff game. I don't even know if anyone describes it as that, but the winner of that game secured the 9th spot and now gets to host, and the Bulls obviously won that. Final was 119-111, and maybe the best game of 𝗬𝗍's Bulls career. He had 28 points, 16 assists, and 11 rebounds, his 7th triple-double of the season. So other things to kind of unpack in this game: Kevin Huerter scored 22 points, 𝗬𝗏 had 20 points and 11 rebounds. There was a lot of talk. The previous night, the Bulls played on the road in Cleveland and rested Josh Giddey. They rested their starters pretty much. And, I think the discourse was they probably should have played those guys. There was a report that the Bulls players actually wanted to play and, wasn't really their decision. So much ado about nothing. The Bulls did start a little slow in that game, but they handled business. They won by 8 at home and secured hosting the play-in game. So we say all that to say we have one game. The play-in tournament is as such. The Bulls win on Wednesday. They play the loser of the 7-8 game. If they win that second game, they become the 8th seed, and Cleveland awaits. So a lot on the line. It is a win-or-go-home situation, and this is the opportunity the Bulls, I think, wanted. When you hear the press conferences earlier in the season, there's ways to develop players without, tanking and giving up the idea of winning games in front of your home fans and things like that. A lot of people have different philosophies, but here we are. The Bulls will host the Heat, and I do think we are going to see a really fun and entertaining game. Two teams that are very familiar with each other, have played each other in the play-in previously in years past. So a lot to look forward to on Wednesday night. I'm recording this on Monday. So as I get closer to kind of talking through the odds and some of the bets, understand there are pending injuries. Casey Johnson has reported that Josh Giddey is nursing a wrist injury. Doesn't look like he will miss the game. He is very confident. Billy Donovan said he is very confident that Giddey will be good to go on Wednesday. But when those news items come out, injury reports get locked in, some of these lines will move. So make sure you take that with a grain of salt. Before I get into the game odds and splits and all that jazz, I do want to recognize one player. As you know, on this show, I like to give out the Coin Respector of the Week. Special episode with the play-in. I'm going to give out the Coin Respector of the season. And there's a lot of options here, right? I think Kobe White took a major step forward again with his Player of the Month stretch. I'm not choosing Kobe White. You could argue that 𝗬𝗏, when healthy, has been extremely productive for this team, despite the rumors and the discourse that he would be too slow to play with this team. He's really morphed into this different role where he's stretching the floor. He's shooting threes at a solid clip. But in my opinion, the Bulls' Coin Respector of the year is Josh Giddey. Personally, I wasn't necessarily thrilled that we didn't get picks back from the trade when we let Alex Caruso go to the Thunder, bringing Josh Giddey here. But one of the things that I learned throughout the course of the season is Josh Giddey is a hooper. 22 years old, a ton of potential in front of him, and all he did was put his head down and ball. Early in the season, he started slow. He definitely didn't, he left a lot to be desired on the defensive end, but you could tell even just like an interview that KC did with Josh Giddey on CHSN, he said he knows his shortcomings on defense and he's willing to put in the time and work. And he's not the best defender on the team by any stretch, but he's made huge strides in that department. So as good as Kobe was in March and in these last kind of couple months, 𝗬𝗍 has kind of been a catalyst for that, right? He doesn't have to be as ball dominant. Kobe White can act more as a shooting guard. Obviously, we know that's his strength. 7 triple-doubles, like I mentioned earlier, and dozens of games that he got really close to those. He had a bunch of double-doubles this season. So if you've been betting 𝗬𝗍 overs throughout the season, you probably started off really slow. And if you had the wherewithal and the bankroll to kind of keep going, he definitely made you some cash this year. And now he's looking at a massive offseason as an unrestricted free or as a restricted free agent. I do think the Bulls will be in line to give him a contract to extend him. I hope they do. He's proven enough to me, and I know he's proven a lot to, the fan base and the audience, that he belongs, as the starting point guard for a team like the Bulls, especially one who's in this youth movement, right? You have 𝗵𝗸 𝗟𝗏, who's taken a lot of steps forward. We'll have a pick probably in the top 15, not sure exactly where. So there's a lot to like about what 𝗬𝗍 has done this season, and he is the coin respector of the year for the Chicago Bulls. Shout out to 𝗵𝗍. All right, let's get into the numbers. The Heat are traveling to Chicago to play the Bulls, 6:30 p.m. on ESPN here in Chicago. Right now, we are looking at Bulls -1 on DraftKings, and the over-under is set at 219 points. So there's a lot to kind of discuss here. I'll get into the splits. 65% of the money and 66% of the bets are on the Bulls spread. -1, not really much to kind of discuss there. It's basically a pick 'em. Vegas is expecting this game to be very close. The results of the 3 previous games, Bulls win by 9, Bulls win by 5, Bulls win by 8. I think you throw all that stuff out of the window. It's a different scenario. That's win or go home. They've already played each other 3 times. So I do think that this spread is probably pretty accurate when you consider Erik Spoelstra is an NBA champion coach. The talent, I think, on the Heat has more experience, especially in playoff scenarios. This team is only a couple years removed from being in the finals, upsetting the Celtics. But they are missing Jimmy Butler, which makes things a lot different. That's a lot more burden for guys like 𝗵 Adebayo and Tyler Hero, who were secondary options to Jimmy in playoff scenarios. So I don't think that this is a bet an alt spread situation. I think this is what you see is what you're going to get. I do think this is going to be a really close game. So I think the number is right. And again, I'm recording this on Monday. The game is on Wednesday. If there's any injury news that will, significantly shift this line, if 𝗬𝗍 is less than 100%, things of that nature. Let's talk the over-under, because I think that's the most interesting part of these splits. 71% of the money, so the handle, is on under 219, but 68% of the public, which is the bets, is on the over 219. Normally, I'm a guy who likes to kind of go in line with where the sharp money is, but I've watched every single Bulls game this season, so I do not have any problem with anyone who wants to take this over. This could very easily turn into a track meet. Frankly, the Bulls really prefer that pace. It's whether or not the Heat can keep up in that aspect. If you look at these numbers of the previous games, we have 124 to 133. That's way over. You have 114, 109. It's kind of close. 119 to 111. That's over by 1. So I don't think the number is mispriced. I personally am not going to take a bet on the spread or on the total because I just can't. I don't want to bet an under because it's not that fun. But it is very common in playoff and winner take all games to look at that under a little more closely. So my head is telling me the under. My heart is telling me the over. Let's get as many points as we can and have a shootout because I do think a shootout favors the Bulls in this scenario. Finally, 68% of the money and 58% of the bets are on Bulls money line. So spread bettors, I don't know that I would tell you to consider taking the spread at -1. If they lose, obviously you're going to get crushed. If they only win by 1, you'd push. This is very much a bet the money line situation, whether you like the Bulls or not, honestly. I mean, the 1 point, if you are potentially on the Heat, doesn't really do much for you. The money line right now for the Bulls is at -115. So you're sacrificing a few cents for a wacky result, a crazy lucky bounce, and then you end up not winning money or pushing. So my personal POV, don't worry about the spread, maybe lock in on the money line. So I've talked through a lot. It's a lot of numbers there. Let's get into some bets that I'm taking, some bets that I will encourage other people to take if they are interested. First, my best bet of the game, 𝗏𝗏 𝗏𝗏 to record a double-double. Right now it's -140 on FanDuel. You're laying a little juice, but Vooch has recorded a double-double in all of his last five games, the sixth being he only played the first half, and he almost recorded that against the Sixers in the last game of the season. Betting Vooch double-doubles has been a cash cow all season long. He's someone who obviously takes a lot of pride in grabbing boards. He is the focal big man of this team, and he has a triple-double in all of the games that he played against the Heat this season. So if you're thinking about laying a little juice, I don't think that this is something that should deter you. This is something that has been as consistent as anything betting-wise for this Bulls team. So Vooch to record a double-double, -140 on FanDuel. It's something that I banked on quite a bit this season. It's something that I've put in parlays a lot this season, and something that I am very confident should happen again. He has a height advantage on 𝗵 𝗏𝗶𝗹. 𝗂𝗏 is a very young player. He's in the discussion for Rookie of the Year, but someone who will be playing in this setting for the first time. So Vooch to record a double-double, -140 on FanDuel. Shop around. That's the best price I saw at this point. But again, this is Monday. Things could change over the next couple days. All right, so I got through the best bet. Same game parlay. I wonder if anyone is going to tail this with me. I mean, if you like money, I think this is a pretty good bet. Again, I have a lot of familiarity with this team. I've been betting same game parlays on almost all of these games this season, so I know what I'm looking at. There's been a lot of games where I've missed by one leg. Most of them have been like by 1 point. So for the same game parlay of Bulls Heat, first leg, 𝗏 𝗏𝗀 to score 10 points. This is cashed in 8 of his last 10 games. He did not play in the second half of the Sixers game. That was one of the ones that he didn't get it. This is a first for 𝗏 𝗏𝗀, obviously a rookie. It's his first kind of postseason action. From what I've gathered, from what I've watched, from what I've heard of him, he's a kid who loves the moment. He's not shy to take the shot. In the Heat game against last week on the 9th, he airballed a 3 late, got another opportunity, and knocked basically the dagger down in that game. He's not someone who shies away from the moment, and I do think he's going to have a very solid game when you consider how the Heat want to defend against the Bulls. So first leg, 𝗏𝗏 to score 10 points. Second leg, I am a little concerned about 𝗵𝗏 as it pertains to his wrist. I also know that 𝗵𝗏 has really gone nuclear against the Heat in 3 straight games this season. So I imagine Erik Spoelstra's strategy is going to be, even if he's not 100%, we have to take him out of the game. Historically, Coby White has struggled against this Heat team. Davion Mitchell did a really good job against him in this most recent game. So I'm going 𝗵𝗏 8 assists. I do think they're going to try and get the ball out of his hands. I think going 10 might be a little too aggressive, especially in a game where the total's a little lower than we're kind of used to. And I do think there is going to be a little bit of nerves. They're both two young teams. So 𝗵𝗏 to have 8 assists. I think his line is set at 8.5, so it's a little under what Vegas is posting for his straight bet. I talked about the double-double. In terms of a leg, throw Vooch in for 8 rebounds. I do really think that this is a hammer lock. He's gotten 8 rebounds in his last 13 games, so something I'm not too worried about. As long as he doesn't get into major foul trouble or injury, this is something that I think goes through. And finally, Kevin Huerter to knock down 3 threes. This is going to be the sweat of the century, but Kevin Huerter has been really, really good lately. He had 5 threes in the first half against the Sixers, so he is in rhythm. We're playing at home. The crowd will be behind him. He's shot better at home as well. So 4 legs, 𝗏𝗏 to score 10 points, 𝗵𝗏 to have 8 assists, Vooch to have 8 boards, and Huerter to knock down 3 threes. That's 4-1 plus 406 on FanDuel. That is a bet that I like for Bulls Heat on Wednesday night. I've got a sneak nuke. Haven't done this in a while. I usually do this on football games, but I did talk a little bit about 𝗬𝗟 and how much of an impact he's made in his rookie season. Again, someone that I don't think fears the moment at all. I do think he feels very comfortable playing against the Heat. He had a career high at that time against the Heat of 24 points. So the sneak nuke, you don't have to share it, but Modest to score 20 points and the Bulls to win is plus 941 on FanDuel, almost 10-1 odds. We're really going to have to sweat the 𝗬𝗟 points. Obviously, if he gets hot, you get a little closer to feeling good about this, but 20 is a little loftier than his season averages. But when you consider the upside of 𝗬𝗟, someone who can knock down threes, someone who's a fairly decent free throw shooter, someone who's going to get quite a bit of minutes and run in this game based on his success that he's had against the Heat this season, it's worth a little dart. I would not consider putting the mortgage on this because it's obviously not super likely, but how fun of a story would it be if we have our rookie drop 20 and the Bulls advance in the play-in tournament? Just want to be on the right side of history. So 𝗬𝗟 to score 20 and Bulls to win, plus 940 on FanDuel. And that should leave no doubt on where my game pick is. This is hard for me as an actual Bulls fan and someone who's had their heart ripped out by betting on teams that they love. But this is a very different situation in my opinion. I think the Bulls do have this team's number. There's a lot of differences by the way they play. The Heat like to play slow. It's a contrast of styles. The Bulls want to play really fast. The reason why I am confident that the Bulls will win on Wednesday night is one glaring stat. The Bulls have been the 5th best team in the NBA in clutch situations. So that's, 5-point game, 5 minutes or less. And the Heat were the 3rd worst. So both teams no stranger to these kind of late game situations. The Bulls have erased a ton of, leads to come back and win and surprise. So they're very used to that. When you consider the Bulls being the 5th best clutch team and the Heat being the 3rd worst, then you kind of consider what it means to play at the United Center. I know it is a play-in game. It is not a playoff game. But when you consider this team being young and trying to get, momentum going forward to being a contender again in the East, these are those checkpoints that you have to run through. And I think Billy understands that. I think Kobe understands that. I think Vooch has been here before. 𝗬𝗍 has played in a lot of playoff series. They understand what's at stake here. So when you consider how as in the Bulls, have handled late game situations, I do think the Bulls are primed to win this game. Minus 110 on Fanatics, that's the best number I saw. But the clutch numbers do stick out. If this game is really a 1-point game, like Vegas has it posted as, I'm going to trust the home team. I'm going to trust the team that's been better in the clutch all season long. I will jump off my homer horse for a second, though, because unbiased, there's something about this Bulls team that I think a lot of people who have watched a lot of these games really understand, and it's the Bulls kind of start slow sometimes. I don't think that this is going to be any different of a situation. Even though it's a play-in game, you might get a little bit of extra nerves. That's very natural. But even in this most recent game against the Heat were up, I think 8 to 10 points early in the first quarter. So if you're looking for a different kind of way to bet this game, if you're trying to be a little more unbiased, there is a bet available on FanDuel to take the Heat to win the first half and the Bulls to win the full game. It's plus 550 right now on FanDuel and maybe worth a little bet because if the Bulls do start slow, you will see a lot of adjustments made. I think Billy Donovan has done a really good job of that all season long. But one thing that I know about the Bulls from watching them as much as I have this year is they don't really give in. And this is a situation where it's win or go home, so it's not like we're going to pull the starters. It's not like we're going to have a situation where you throw in the towel. This is very much a statement opportunity for this Bulls team to make. I think that they've been largely better recently than they have throughout the rest of the season, and I think they're comfortable with who they are. They're comfortable with their rotations. So if the Bulls do start slow and end up down 3 or 4 points at halftime, you do have confidence that they'll right the ship, especially with the home crowd behind them. So Heat first half money line plus Bulls money line is plus 550 on FanDuel. I'm just trying to be unbiased because I know there will be comments about I've watched all these games, I've been there covering them. I am a homer, but money is money, so I'm not going to just like pump all this Bulls propaganda in front of you, even though that was the majority of the show. There is something to be said about the slow starts, and if you're a Heat fan listening to this and you're not as confident, I would just bet the first half because I think that that's a sharp play in this game. So we've gone through a lot. There's a lot to unpack. I hope you're going to watch the game. I hope you're going to be, if you're a Bulls fan, be as excited as you can be about a play-in game. Obviously, this play-in tournament is very new. I personally understand it and like it. I think it gives a little more parity to a league that it doesn't really hurt. So I will be locked in. I will be covering and sharing these bets on my socials, and I will be watching them live and direct from the United Center on Wednesday night. Can't wait to see what the environment's like. They've advertised that there will be rally towels. These games definitely feel less hyped because they are play-in games until the ball's tipped off. And then it really just does feel like a playoff game. So exciting basketball hopefully to come on Wednesday, and hopefully we can, hopefully I can be previewing the second game of the play-in tournament for the Bulls after they hopefully get a win against the Miami Heat here in the United Center on Wednesday night. So be on the lookout on my socials at 𝗏𝗏𝗍𝗶𝗋. Be on the lookout for CHSN socials. There will be plays that I described in this episode on those channels for you to review. If you're tailing, let's win together. If you're fading, I don't know what to tell you because I hope you're not doing that. But let's hope the Bulls can get a win, and let's hope we can preview a Bulls and either Hawks or Magic matchup with an opportunity to have a date with the Cleveland Cavaliers in the first round of the NBA playoffs. I am, as always, Michael Bolling, and this has been Respect Coin.